without further ado, I'll now call to the podium our Chair of the Day, Past President Austin Burley, to take over today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, President Wade. Now, cricket followers will know that the 2022 ICC Men's T20 World Cup is currently in progress, and as games are being played in Geelong and Hobart as we meet. But today, Rotary Melbourne celebrates this with a presentation by Brad Hodge, a retired Australian and Victorian cricketer, coach and broadcaster, as you heard earlier. Now, Brad debuted as a 19-year-old and became one of cricket's most exciting and prolific run scorers. Now, a few stats just to illustrate this. He's fifth on Australia's all-time first-class run-scoring list with 10,474 runs, including 51 centuries. And overall, making more than 17,000 first-class runs at an average of 48.41. His Test career average is 55.88 with a high score of 203 not out. So who knows how far that would have gone to increase the average. But after retiring from long-form cricket, Brad turned his focus to the T20 game, where he amassed 7,338 runs at an average of 38.87, currently ranking him fifth on the list of all-time runs. So there is the stats info. Then followed coaching, after which he switched his focus to broadcasting and commentary on the game. So appropriately, today Brad will be sharing with us the impact of T20 on world cricket. Please welcome Brad Hodge to the podium.
Thank you very much. It's such a privilege to be here. For me, the cricket season's always exciting. I'm not sure how you guys and girls feel about it. It still feels very early in the summer, I must admit. It just feels like football's ticked over. For me, I was in Bathurst last week, getting rained on, watching some cars go round and round a track for a long period of time. But we are in the T20 world now, and it's quite interesting. I want to touch on what T20 cricket means and what it represents in the current day, because I imagine that everyone in this room has a long, steep tradition about what they think cricket is, and it's probably 5 long days of cricket, remembering the greats of the past, Sir Donald Bradman, Alan Border, remembering the greats from overseas, Waqar Younis, Arjuna Ranatola, who lifted not a T20 World Cup, but a World Cup for Sri Lanka. But it's interesting how things have changed in the life of cricket, and my life took a big turn as well at some stage. And as you mentioned there, Austin, 7,000 runs in the T20 world, who would have thought? And I want to take you back as a youngster, as a junior player, about what cricket meant to me. Well, my 2 idols were Dennis Lillee and Alan Border. Like any young kid, I was in the backyard, open neck shirt, trying to bowl fast. The reality was that I was only ever going to grow to be 5'8", and was never going to be that fast. So Alan Border quickly became my idol. Then it switched to the great Dean Jones, who was my roommate as a young Victorian. You said that if there was an error in the stats, there was. I was 18 when I first played cricket for Victoria. So even younger, when I got to sleep about 1.5 foot away from the great Dean Jones, who was my idol. Back in the day, didn't have the option to stay at the Key West Suites as the modern Australian cricketers do. Back then you stayed in a hotel accommodation with 2 double beds, the twin room right next to the player which you were idolised as an 18-year-old. And for me it was quite an interesting moment. I mean, there was posters on my wall as a young kid growing up in Cheltenham of Dean Jones, that the one-day marvel that he was. And here I was as an 18-year-old waking up to a nude Dean Jones most mornings, dusting himself off for a shower and often go out and saying hello about 6 hours later after he was 150 against New South Wales on most occasions. But my dream, like every youngster's dream, was to represent Australia at the MCG just down the road with the baggy green on. That was the dream. It became a reality, short-lived reality, which is a bit unfortunate for myself. 506 runs at an average of 56.5. Good news is it trumps a few legends in the Channel 7 commentary box, which I kindly point them out from time to time. So that's a good thing. Probably about 10,500 runs shy of where I needed to get to Test cricket. But it was important T20 cricket came along. After I managed to play for Australia, the landscape of cricket had changed dramatically, and I went over, well, it was just about the time I actually played cricket for Australia in 2005, right in between that amazing Test series between Australia and England, which England went on to win, one of the best of all time. And I was playing for Leicestershire at the time, and it was the first T20 game that had been played domestically in 2003, and I was a part of it. It was Yorkshire versus Leicestershire, and I remember it clearly because it was the first time that I walked into the Leicestershire cricket ground after playing there for 3 or 4 months, and the ground was packed. And I'm not sure if anyone's been to the Leicestershire cricket ground. It's a small little boutique ground, probably holds about maybe 5,000 to 6,000 people. But if you went to county cricket, no one actually ever showed up. There was probably 20 people who were religiously there every day. You'd say hello to the folk as you walked in, and they'd still be there 7.5 hours later after the day's play. This was a different moment. This was a different setting. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful summer's day in England, and T20 cricket was on. The colours were there, and there was a fascination about what this product was going to bring to everyone. And the 5.5 to 6,000 people were there, witnessed something pretty special. It was special for me. Individually, I went on to make 98 not out, which was unfortunate because I would have been the first ever person to score a century in T20 cricket. But that actually went to my mate Ian Harvey, a fellow Victorian who played for, I think he was playing for Gloucestershire the next day, and he actually got 100. He rang me and said, "Thanks, Hodgie, you missed those last 2 runs. I'll take the record and thank you very much." I said, "No worries, Harv. We've spent enough times at the Crown Casino to enjoy each other's company, and I'll celebrate your 100 from here." So that was pretty cool. What has it done? What did that moment do in cricket? Well, that progressed on to the 2007 T20 World Cup, where India, I think it was 2007, where India took the prize. And if anyone remembers the moment that the Indian team returned from South Africa back to Mumbai, they went along the sea link, and you've never witnessed crowds like it. So if you go and have a look at the footage, it took the team about 5.5 hours to get from the start of the sea link to the Trident Hotel where they were looking to celebrate. And it was absolutely chaos. And that was the moment that the game actually changed, because the high power that India are and control world cricket just became more fascinated with the T20 game, the shorter version. Now, if anyone doesn't know how the revenues work in Australian cricket, just down the road, Cricket Australia received their revenue 65% from India. That's how it rolls. So I guess you could say that we are a little bit of a little baby sister or baby brother to India. Whatever they say, we will do. No problem, no questions asked. So now that T20 has come to the public in India, the fascination then kicked into the Indian Premier League. Now, I'm not sure if anyone stays up to watch the Indian Premier League. The timeline's not great. But I'll tell you, I've been a part of it as a player and as a coach. It's the best product in cricket by a mile. And I know everyone's thinking, well, how can that beat a Boxing Day Test match? And I've played in both of them, and I can honestly say that it's an amazing product. Now, the question is it a cricket product or is it an entertainment product? And I think that's 2 things that we have to distinguish, because my heart still believes that the summer starts on the first morning of the Brisbane Test. Now here we are talking about T20 kicking off in October, and I'm sure your heart still believes that the first morning of the summer starts at the Brisbane Test. That's tradition, that's cricket. Where does the T20 world sit in? Entertainment. And there's positives and negatives for it. Why is it positive? Well, I can tell you that straight up. I've got a wife and 2 kids who will not sit there for 5 hours and watch me play, let alone watch the rest of Australia play. Now they do. It's interesting that T20 cricket, the Renegades and the Stars, they're more than happy to come along and watch an entertainment game of cricket, see Glenn Maxwell and Aaron Finch try and bang it out of the park. It's exciting, it's vibrant. So for me, the moment that we distinguish what that product is it still entertainment or is it cricket? Now, I know personally that the problem that we have moving forward is that T20 cricket is now starting to generate a lot of money. I'm not sure if anyone captured the revenues of the new broadcast rights from the Indian Premier League. There's a fraction north of 3 billion over 5 years. So there's a lot of money at stake. That's the market. As I said, India, there's 1 billion people. It's not surprising that it captures that market, but that poses a problem because then that now starts to become a reality for everyone involved in administration in cricket and thinks, how do I get my money? How do I get my hands on that money? Well, as I said, the positives for T20 cricket, it brings new exciting product. It attracts new viewers to the audience, females, younger cricketers, they all enjoy it. Gone are the days, I'm sure we've all got out there with our sons and grandsons and tried to teach them the forward defence, and they look at you and say, Dad, what's a forward defence? I want to play a reverse sweep over the top of point for 6. And as a coach, you have to remind yourself that the landscape is changing and your coaching style has to change. And we have to also not only teach the forward defence, but we do have to teach the reverse sweep over point for 6. I'm not quite sure how the modern day players do it, but they manage to do it pretty successfully. What else is really exciting about T20 cricket? I'll tell you right now, it's fun to play. It lasts for 3 hours. Great fun playing in front of packed houses at the MCG. It's good, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's also good fun to talk about on broadcast. There's not a great deal of analysis. As I said, our demographic is a changing demographic. So it's really cool, fun sport to broadcast on. We are well aware that there are female eyes watching a lot of the game. There are young kids watching a lot of the game. So as broadcasters, we have to be mindful that that's our new target market. So it's very important we attract that. I guess one of the other things I wanted to touch on is how T20 cricket's brought the worlds together. And before T20 cricket started, before the Indian Premier League started, there was very much huge rivalry between India, Australia and England, of course for the Ashes, Australia, Pakistan, India, right? A lot of politics, a lot of history. The Indian Premier League's undone that, and the culture of state versus state is now gone. What's it done to the game of cricket? I'd say it's made it completely gentle. Gone are the days where Brett Lee would run in and try and knock someone's head off, come around the wicket and brutally try and, in his own words, I'm trying to kill you. Mitchell Johnson, the same. What's happened is that people become well aware of different cultures and they've built friendship groups. And the greatest example I can give is Andrew Simons and Harbhajan Singh in the Monkey Gate. If anyone's aware of it, what happened was a pretty average sort of response from Cricket Australia from a complaint from Andrew Simons where he thought that Harbhajan Singh had called him a monkey on the field. And Andrew Simons and Matthew Hayden in particular brought that to the attention of the administrators and wanted something done about it. Well, I'll tell you what, there was a huge hatred between India and Australia through that period, and also particularly Harbhajan Singh and Andrew Simons. Who would have thought that T20 cricket would repair that partnership? And they end up playing together, believe it or not, for the Mumbai Indians about 7.5 years after that event. And Andrew's not here to tell you, but if he was, he'd tell you that he actually built a strong, very strong relationship with Harbhajan Singh. And I've heard it from his words, straight out of his mouth, that he actually said, you know, Harbhajan's a really good guy. That's what T20 cricket's brought. And if T20 cricket wasn't there, I think you'd still have that hatred. You'd still have that country versus country, state versus state rivalry. So it's really interesting. For me, it was the complete eye-opener. I played for 17 different franchises around the world, 17. Yet I'm known as a loyal Victorian. It's weird, isn't it? Because half of my life, after realising that I couldn't play for Australia, was actually moving around countries, playing for different franchises, and it was quite rewarding. One of the most interesting stories that I will share with you was quite embarrassing, actually, and it was in Bangladesh. And I'm sure some people can relate to this. Some people might find it confusing, but I found it extremely embarrassing for my first visit to Bangladesh. I religiously, for 20 years, after warm-up, always had a shower before I went out to bat. So on this occasion in Bangladesh, if you've ever been there, Dhaka, it's steaming hot, it's humid. So the first thing you do is strip off and go for a shower. Well, in Bangladesh at that time, things didn't run smoothly as we thought they might do at the MCG, where you walk in and everything's sorted out for you. It had just started the Bangladesh Premier League, and I was looking around for a towel, and I couldn't find one. And I walked out of the shower, and I saw a towel on the ground. And I picked the towel up, grabbed the towel, and kindly toweled myself off. And there was a young boy. He was 18 years of age. Looked up and he stared at me. And I said, "Excuse me, is it, can I help you?" He said, "Brad, that's my prayer mat." And I said, "Look, I'm devastatingly really sorry. I wasn't aware. All I can do is apologise." And he said, "No problem, Mr. Hodge." He said, "We'll have plenty of time to get to know each other. I can't wait to play cricket with you. I've been following you through the Big Bash all my life." And I said, "What a wonderful man. I'll make sure that I go out of my way to make sure that we have a great experience over the next 5-6 weeks." And we did. And for me, it was a real eye-opener because I hadn't been exposed to those sort of cultures. In fact, when you toured India or Pakistan or Sri Lanka, Bangladesh in the past with the national side, you're actually quite reserved and you stayed in your own little bubble. And that was what was important to you. You stayed around Ricky Ponting, you stayed around Matthew Hayden, you stayed around Justin Langer, because those are the guys that made you feel comfortable and you learned from them. But T20 cricket changed the landscape, changed the way I look at cricket. Will it change the way everyone in this room looks at cricket? Maybe, maybe not. But I can tell you straight up that it's pretty exciting. It's going to be fun. The World Cup is just upon us. One of the last times, one of my greatest sporting moments was actually being a part of a T20 World, not a T20 World Cup, a 50-over World Cup in the West Indies. And the captain was Ricky Ponting, vice captain was Adam Gilchrist. And I'll share a little story about Adam Gilchrist. And I'm pretty sure that everyone here believes that Adam is a squeaky clean, no frills sort of character, gets the job done. Well, on this particular occasion, it wasn't the way. Gilly strolled up to the West Indies 2 days late, just had the birth of his third child, and doesn't mind a drink or two, Gilly, likes a glass of beer and a few wines. And on this occasion, he said that, "Coach, I just need a couple of days to wet the baby's head, and once that happens, I'm straight into it." So Gilly carried on for a couple of days, no sleep. Got to the third day, and Ricky and Coach John Buchanan just come up to Ricky and said, "Ricky, I think we just need to have a little bit of a chat. I'm a bit worried about Adam." So go up to Gilly, and Coach and Ricky said, "Gilly, look, it's about time I reckon we started to switch on at this moment. Things are starting to get serious. We just start thinking about winning this World Cup." Gilly just turned to John. He said, "John, respect you as a coach. Love what you got to say. But I just need another 24 hours. Gilly carried on drinking for another 24 hours, wet the baby's head, got halfway through the tournament, and there became a little bit of a policy that you weren't allowed out late at night. We were there to switch on, we were there to win the World Cup. Got halfway through the tournament, myself and Brad Haddon, who were carrying the drinks at the time, we went out to a party which Shane Warne had organised, and we went onto this vessel, onto this boat. We were having a good time. Myself and Brad decided we were going to go out that night. We went out, and there was Andrew Simons and Adam Gilchrist, who jumped in the van next to us. And Andrew looked over, opened the window, and said, "Where are you two boys going?" And we just said, "Mate, we've been training for 6 or 7 weeks. We're going to go out and have a good time. I think we've earned it." He said, "Righto, I'm with you." So Simo gets out, jumps in our van. Then Adam Gilchrist looks over and goes, "Where are you guys going?" So, "Mate, I'm with these three. We're going down to the harbour for a good night." He said, "Right, I'm in." So we get back, and unfortunately Andrew Simons strolls in at about 9 a.m. the next morning, just to see John Buchanan and his family at the breakfast table, sharing some eggs, and Simo thought it was a good chance to go and share an omelette with the coach and his family. And Gilly obviously got home. Ricky said, well, we've got a bit of an issue because this is the third strike that Simo's got, so we're going to have to wipe him out of the World Cup. And to do that, we're going to have to go and have a chat to the vice captain. So they go and knock on Gilly's door and they say, Adam, we've got a bit of an issue. He says, what's the issue? They said, well, Simo just rolled in at 9 o'clock. He's had a few too many and it's his third misdemeanor, so we're going to have to scrub him out of the next game. And Gilly said, okay. He said, Coach, how many injuries have we got? He said, well, Hoggy's injured, Watto's carrying another injury, and Sean Tate's probably not available for the next game. He said, so how many players is that? He said, well, we got 12 fit to choose from. He said, so, okay, so if we take Simo out, we're down to 11. He goes, yep. Gilly goes, got an issue, Coach. He said, what's the issue? He goes, well, if Simo rolled in at 9:32, he goes, I got in 8 minutes later at 9:40, sorry. So he goes, if you scrub Simo out of the game, he goes, as a leader and as vice captain, I'm going to have to do the same thing. So as you do in sporting environments, you wipe it on the carpet, push it aside. Simo played the next game, so did Gilly. Gilly went on to smack 150 in the World Cup final and beat Sri Lanka to be one of the best all-time players of all time. Australia lifted 2007 50 over World Cup. Hopefully we do the same again when Aaron Finch lifts it in about 2 months' time. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It was good fun. Austin.
Thanks a lot, Brad. You know, how illuminating was that as an address? Interesting. Now we've got time for a few questions. If someone would like to ask a question to Brad. So Peter Dakin's got the roving mic. If you just announce your name and ask your question, please.
A brief question.
David Carruthers. Brad, I was wondering if you could make some comment about the other form of cricket that seems to be evolving in the background, the 100.
The 100, yeah, it's an interesting concept. For those that don't know about the 100, it's the competition which operates over in England. Similar style. What went on in England is they tried to create something a fraction more different than the T20 game. Okay. Obviously, it's 100 balls that you face. There's a few different varieties of rules. Bowlers can bowl 20 balls, but it's all about time. So what they realised when they did their research, and this is why the T20 game is really cool, time management. Everyone seems to be time poor at the moment. So they reduced the game of T20 cricket to be even shorter. So now it's a 2.5 hour game instead of 3 hour game. So that was the concept behind it. Will it stay the test of time? Look, who knows? The problem is, and then everyone knows this, good cricket's good cricket. You can throw as many gimmicks in there as you want, but if you put a good contest on the pitch, people will watch. The gimmicks will come and go. So I'm not sure whether it will stay or whether it will come and go, but for the moment, she's there. Public are divided. Channel 7 broadcasters, when they went and watched it, said it's a pretty good product. But the difference is, as well, is that we have stadiums that fill 80,000. If you've ever been to England grounds over there, generally they hold around 17 to 25,000. And with a good population in England, they pack them out. So visually it looks good, but I'm not a fan of the gimmick, I must admit. I'm a bit more of a traditionalist, so let's just watch good cricket.
Hi, Brad, thanks for a wonderful talk. I'm Mazum, the Consul General of Pakistan. 2 questions. Who do you think was the best Pakistani bowler that you have faced? And secondly, who do you think has the best chance in this World Cup, T20 World Cup?
Yeah, I can't separate 3 of them, but there's probably three Pakistani bowlers that I've faced, and for all different reasons. One was Wasim Akram, who was the left-arm fast bowler that brought you nightmares, actually. When you had to face Wasim, I only faced him a couple of times, but I know he gave Adam Gilchrist nightmares and also Ricky Ponting. But just that left-arm swing, no one likes a left-arm quick that can swing the ball. Waqar Younis, he was fast and aggressive and got the ball to tail in at your feet. Very difficult to score. And the other one was Saklain Mushtaq. Unbelievable spinner, probably the first one that pioneered the doosra as well. So the first one to turn the off spinner away from the bat. Played against him a number of times at the Oval and was tough work. So they were probably the best. I think your question is probably directed towards can Pakistan win the T20 World Cup? And I'm going to have to say no. I'm sorry, they're not going to get there. And the only reason I think that is because I think their batting is just a frack. They probably max out at about 170. They're not a side that can get 180, 200. Having said that though, watch Bubba go. He'll probably get 150 every game and you'll post 200 and your bowling attack's really good. But I love what Pakistan bring to the table. They're exciting. Matthew Hayden's also joined that coaching staff, so they'll be tough to beat. I think they'll make the finals, but my heart and my mind is actually telling me that Australia will win it. I think it's got a good luck story for Finchy, who can't score a run at the moment. How's your broadcasting going, Pete? The roaming mic.
John Saunders, a New Zealander. Do you agree that now that Brendan McCullum is coaching England, Australia really has something to fear?
Well, it's interesting. I've played with Brendan and also coached Brendan as a player. One of the things which T20 does, and I wanted to touch on this a bit earlier, is that it removes accountability. One of the things which happens as a batter, it's a really tough space to coach in. The reason being is that player goes out, smacks one in the air, tries to slug it for six, it goes straight up and says, oh, I'm just trying to get on with the game, coach, that's how I play. Brendan McCullum was the master of that, but the problem was Brendan actually did it. He actually hit it into the stands most times. And his coaching style is actually exactly the way he plays. It's go out there with a pile of freedom and show the world exactly what skills you've got in your kit bag. It's a scary way to coach. He's getting the best out of England by a mile. He's not coaching the T20 side. That's the only problem. Matthew Mott is. So if I was England, I would have employed him actually to coach the T20 side, because Brendan is an absolute master about getting the best out of people. He understands pressures. We've seen it with New Zealand. We've heard time and time again that they punch above their weight, and they do. But Brendan certainly will be a worry for Australia when England tour here in the Test series. So for sure, he's a great leader.
Brad, just one final quick question. Malcolm Speed, when he headed up the ICC, spoke to our club, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, talked about the unbelievable gambling in India. Can you comment about volumes of gambling on T20 cricket in India?
Yeah, well, true story. I showed up to the bus one morning for the Rajasthan Royals and 3 of our players were not on the bus. They'd been detained by the Delhi police for corruption. So it does happen. It's a part of our game that, you know, it's there. We get told by the authorities that, you know, you can get honey trapped or find yourself in a position that you don't want to be in. So it is there, the monetary, and that's all to do with gambling. So I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but I've been told by Betfair that each Indian Premier League game, there's $1 billion of black money that goes across each match. So remember, there's 66 matches in the Indian Premier League. So across the tournament, there's 66 billion of black money that disappears somewhere and transacts somewhere. So yeah, it's huge business. A lot of the concerns now is actually in the female space, in the women's game, because it's a new product. So a lot of the bookmakers and some heavy hitters are trying to get to the females, because whatever's on TV, you can bet on it. So anything that happens on TV, you can bet on it. So it's there. Me personally, I've never come across anything which has been found myself in an awkward position. No one's ever approached me. I don't know any players that have, any Australians, but it certainly exists. So players need to be careful. Well, I mean, every team's actually had their history of trouble. We've had a history of scratching. So sandpaper. Maybe now that Pat Cummins we haven't got the Alinta Energy, maybe we can get to Bunnings and they can be our major sponsor for the following year. Anyway. Thanks very much. Brad.
Great. Just stay on the left here, just stay on the left. Well, what a scintillating address, and thanks for the questions as well, which brought out a little bit more. I found it quite exciting, but then I'm a bit of a cricket tragic, so very interesting. Now, in recognition of you delivering that address, I've got a couple of gifts for you. One of them here is a set of Convention 2023 socks.
Right.
To acknowledge the upcoming convention next year of Rotary International, which is being held in Melbourne. And they are 200% Australian made by past President Phil Endersby, who's here today, I think. There he is, down there. So, and in addition to that, they're cricket socks. Well, they could be, yes, it depends on the person as to what sort of socks they are, doesn't it? And then we've got also a Rotary book called Moments of Rotary, and there's some coin in there as well, but I'm not sure what that coin is about.
Oh, thanks a
But
lot.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks very much. I will say that I'm on broadcast for Channel 7 tomorrow night for the WBBL. I'll make sure these socks get a good run.